Live from the energy capital of the nation, Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter Show. Good morning. 6:08 here at the studios. It's been one of those mornings. I came in hoping that I'd be able to move on from the George Zimmerman stuff. We have no guests today, so it's going to be a pretty news-intensive day. I came in hoping to move on from the George Zimmerman stuff, and just everything seemed to have happened overnight, or at least after I went to bed last night. I mean, there's apparently now there's small-scale rioting in L.A. No surprise there. Nothing huge. I mean, nobody getting murdered or anything yet, but small-scale rioting. They looted a Walmart, which, you know, I guess if you're going to loot somewhere, Walmart's not a bad place. I mean, prices are cheap enough, you can just buy the stuff. And then, of course, one of the jurors was on Anderson Cooper last night. We have audio from that. And the prosecution's star witness, Rachael Jeantel, I still can't pronounce the name right. I think that's right, Jeantel. She was on Piers Morgan last night. And Piers Morgan has been one of the main offenders of the whole bias, of course, in the coverage of it. I mean, he's nowhere near as bad as Nancy Grace was, but he was pretty bad. And they had the prosecution star witness on Piers Morgan last night. Wow, what a goldmine. If I could, I'd play the whole show and just stop it every 10 seconds and goof on what she had to say, because it's definitely worth going over today. We'll just say that. So we'll get to all that later on in the show, and of course we have the defense attorneys were on Hannity last night. We'll hear from them. I guess the best place to start is where we left off yesterday, and Rush kind of covered most of this, so I don't think I'm going to really get a whole lot into it. But, of course, if anybody has any comments about any of this stuff, you can feel free to call in. The Justice Department, Eric Holder, gave a speech yesterday and basically said that they're going to do some kind of investigation. Now, whether this is a real investigation or it's a Benghazi-type investigation remains to be seen. I still doubt that there will be actual charges filed against Zimmerman, and mainly because of this. The Justice Department was running into immediate hurdles on Monday in its investigation of possible civil rights violations by George Zimmerman in the shooting death of Trayvon Martin, namely that after examining the case for more than a year, the evidence has not changed. And of course, we know how this Justice Department works. If they don't find the evidence they want, they'll just make something up. The department announced after Zimmerman's acquittal that it would consider a possible federal case. Previously filed FBI documents show that agents have not turned up any accounts that Zimmerman, before the February 2012 shooting, exhibited racial bias. Sanford Police Detective Chris Serino also told FBI agents last year that he considered Zimmerman as having a little hero complex, but not as a racist. And it's funny that they bring up the hero complex thing, because that's actually one of the things that the juror that was interviewed by Anderson Cooper, who I will say has been doing a pretty good job during this whole thing. Anderson Cooper's been pretty fair. That's one of the things that the juror says. I don't think she uses the word hero complex, but she says his heart was in the right place. It was just a tragic misunderstanding. Attorney General Eric Holder, in his first post-verdict comments, confirmed Monday during a speech in Washington, D.C., that his department continues to investigate while signaling concern for the position of the Martin family and those such as the NAACP pressuring the Department of Justice. He said that the department is mindful of the pain felt by our nation over the tragic, unnecessary shooting death of Martin. And I hate to read into what people say, but I think using the word unnecessary in that case is it really his point? Is it really his place to say it was unnecessary? I mean, obviously the jury has spoken. They say it was reasonable self-defense. Eric Holder also added that the shooting provides an opportunity to speak honestly about the charged issues involved in the case, and that we must not, here we go, let this opportunity pass. Because remember, you never, what's the old saying? You never let a crisis go to waste, I believe. Holder even appeared to suggest the possibility of bias in the case, saying it's important to address underlying attitudes, mistaken beliefs, and stereotypes that serve as the basis for those two common incidents. Well, I mean, what's the stereotype? I mean, the guy was getting his head beat up against the concrete. You know, and the jury believed that account, and that's all you can go by. You can go by the evidence, and you can go by what the jury says. Both accounts, are on Zimmerman's side there. Still, the Attorney General said his department would act in a manner that is consistent with the facts and the law. That would be a first time. The White House Press Secretary Jay Carney indicated that President Obama would keep his distance from the consideration, adding that the merits of the case will be evaluated by the professionals at the Department of Justice. Wow, keeping his distance? Should have started that last year. And with that, we're going to take our first break. We'll come back and we'll start getting into some of this audio. We got a bunch of it today. It might be the whole show, to tell you the truth. So stay tuned. News Talk 1270, KIML. Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
For the latest on the show, follow Don on Facebook. Just search for Don Carpenter Radio. News Talk 1270, KIML. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Thanks for joining us this morning. 6:20 here at the studios. And if you're just tuning in, we started covering the Zimmerman stuff, and I mean, hopefully some big news and some other fronts happen over the next couple of days. I don't think we really wanted to spend 4 hours talking about the Senate discussing the nuclear option. I mean, that's important stuff, but that's not really what we do here. At least that's not what my vision for the show anyway. But the Zimmerman thing has become a lot bigger than just politics, although politics is obviously a part of it now, and it really shouldn't have been. It really shouldn't have been politicized, but it was. So you deal the hand you play with the hand you're dealt. I'm getting all my cliches backwards today. You play with the hand you're dealt, and the hand we were dealt in this is that we had a criminal case that was politicized at the highest form, at the highest places in government. So, that's what we have to deal with. We talked a little bit about the Department of Justice. They're going to have a hard time prosecuting this case if they decide to actually prosecute it. I still think this investigation that they say they're doing is just lip service. I mean, while I obviously don't put it above the administration to race bait and be more divisive than they've already been, I just don't see them spending the political capital to prosecute George Zimmerman over a murder case. It's just, I don't see it happening. Although, who knows? I mean, if they can find out some way that it would benefit them, it could happen. And, let's go to the phones. Usually don't get calls this early. It's an encouraging start. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. You're on the air.
Just because I'm awake earlier today.
Good. It's good to have you with us.
But as for Eric Holder, I don't have words for what a disgrace he's been to our Justice Department. He's he's more flip-floppy than a pair of sandals on the beach.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'm sure you probably have words, but you probably can't say them on the radio, right?
Well, probably could, but you'd have to enunciate the syllables so he could figure them out.
Yeah.
But with Mr. Holder, he's federal. And I know we can't do nothing, we can't really tell anybody from this state, tell the state of Florida what they should do, because it's not the way it's done. But when Mr. Holder sticks his big nose into it, can't we demand that our senators start a probe on Mr. Holder for the crap he's done?
Well, I do believe, actually, I think the House might have oversight of that, but I mean, but you make a good point. I mean, why aren't our representatives in Washington kind of keeping an eye on this and keeping Holder from overstepping his bounds?
Well, keep him. He's already done it. I mean, with his little thing yesterday about we're keeping an eye on it.
Yeah.
The FBI's investigated. They have said there is no racial connotations to this. The same with the state. They said there are no racial connotations. Yet, how is the Justice Department going to go over a hate crime when it's two minorities?
Well, and Florida has hate crime laws. I mean, if they thought it was a hate crime, they could have tacked a hate crime charge on with it as well.
And that's another thing I really don't like. Hate crime.
Well, yeah, I mean...
What does that mean? In Chicago over the 4th, when, the 60 people were shot, 20 of them murdered, were those love crimes?
Well, that's the one thing, and it ends up criminalizing thought, and that's a problem.
It is very much. I always thought the whole hate crime thing is stupid. It's like even I remember they're talking about the hate crimes when Matthew Shepard was killed down by Laramie.
Yeah.
Now, you remember, I don't know if you know about him. But well, what people don't realize, he wasn't killed because he was gay. He was murdered because he owed drug dealers a lot of money.
Yeah, I've actually heard that theory before, too.
It ain't a theory. It's cold fact.
Well, now, see, and that's if you murder somebody, shouldn't the punishment be the same no matter why you did it? I mean, murder is a murder.
Exactly. That's my whole thing. They didn't murder him with love.
Yeah.
If you cause and murder somebody, I don't care if they're green, black, orange, or whatever color you are. If you're the same, you're different. It doesn't matter. It also be murder is murder.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Because you will never see a black man murdering a white man and it be called a hate crime.
Yeah. It's.
It was made up for special protection for certain minority classes, and that is not what this country was made for.
It definitely criminalizes thought. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, you're trying to get in somebody's head and figure out why they did it, and then you're going to criminalize their beliefs. And that's all it is.
And then exactly like you said, your beliefs and our First Amendment speech is protected. So let's say I was one of them Jerry Springer show people, down from, usually seems to always come from Arkansas or somewhere, the real weird ones, but say I'm from Jerry Springer show and I really don't like, a black man. It is my fervent belief that he's wrong. And everything about him is wrong. Well, even though that means I'm an ignorant piece of dung, it doesn't mean that I should be attacked for what I said, because that is my beliefs or my free speech.
Right. And
it makes me stupider and dumber looking, but I'll see what the big deal is.
Yeah, and if you...
Let's not protect them.
And if somebody commits a crime because of some kind of bias, you prosecute the crime, you don't prosecute the bias.
Well, being called when he was being called a crazy cracker, and when asked, that's not racist? Oh, no. Nope, not racist, because you cannot call a black person a racist. You can call a white person a racist. You can't call anybody else a racist, but you can call a white person a racist. And that's the only way it works around here anymore.
Yeah, and actually...
Affirmative action, this is affirmative action on its head and not the way it was ever intended to be done.
Yeah, and it's just like every other program like that, it ends up being twisted into a way to give power to people that vote certain ways. That's all it is.
Well, you got the idiots Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, and I want to hold there, and that's the reason why I saw, let's call our senator today. We have Barrasso and Enzi. Let's call him. I want to see Eric Holder's feet held to the fire of why they used justice funds to go down there and create. They went that CRS. They went down there and they created tensions. So now, if you go and incite mob violence, aren't you in line to be arrested for that?
You would think so. I mean, if you or I started a riot, we'd get arrested for inciting a riot.
So they turn about fair play.
Yep.
Thanks. I got to go now.
Yep. Thanks for the call. Always good to hear from you. And joining us in studio now, we have Chad Franzen, the new sports guy. How's everything treating you here?
Hey, so far so good. How you doing?
I'm not used to having somebody in that seat. I'll leave the mic off.
That's all right.
So, guess it's a pretty slow sports day, but I guess the home run derby was last night. I heard that was actually kind of exciting.
Yeah, it was actually kind of exciting. The winner, Cespedes, I think is how you pronounce his last name, he came out and he jumped out to he hit 17 home runs in the first round.
Oh, boy.
And everybody else hit 7 or 8. So he jumped out to a big lead, and then the final was close, though.
So who was in the final with him? Do you
Bryce Harper.
Okay, I recognized his name, but I'm not a big baseball guy. But if it weren't on a Monday night when I was watching wrestling instead, so we might have to expand the definition of sports to include fake sports.
Monday Night Raw.
Oh yeah. That was my Monday night activity. So, but I mean, I was watching Twitter and Facebook all night, and everybody was just excited about the home run derby. Yeah. So I guess the All-Star game is tonight.
It is, yes.
So, what's your prediction?
As far as the winner?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like the American League always wins.
Yeah, that seems to be I guess maybe it's because.
They're used to having a designated hitter or something?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And now, how does the designated hitter work in All-Star games? Is it the home park, or do they just always use a designated hitter?
I don't know. I think they always use one, but this is in a National League park this year. So if the pitchers are batting, then I could be wrong tonight.
I think they. If I remember right, I think they do use a DH for...
Yeah, I thought I remembered hearing Bruce Bochy yesterday saying he's the National League manager. I thought I remembered him saying that they were going to be using a designated hitter.
Yeah, and it gets another guy in the game, too, so I think that's probably...
Might as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a National League guy as far as I go with baseball. I mean, because I was always a Phillies fan. I still think the pitchers should hit, and
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so what else do we have? What else do we have?
We'll hear a little bit about the National High School Finals Rodeo that's happening in Rock Springs, and there's a bunch of local kids down there participating.
Yeah. I heard we had over a dozen, I believe. I think something like that.
And we'll have results for I think about 6 of them placed well enough for me to find the results. Nice.
So it's always good to see the local kids doing well, and I guess we'll see you again at 7:30.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks a lot. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
If it's happening in Wyoming, he's talking about it. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270, KIML. You're listening to Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270, KIML.
News Talk 1270, KIML. Don Carpenter Show. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's 6:37. And I think just as a reminder, in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll give away a Taco John's breakfast combo. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. It should go pretty quick. Those seem to be pretty popular. So in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll do that. And we're going to get into the first bit of Zimmerman audio that I have. We've got a bunch of it today. It's a treasure trove of audio today. The first part is the Zimmerman defense team. They were on Hannity last night. So we're going to start off with that, and they talk about their side of things. And then we'll hear from Rachael Jeantel. She was on Piers Morgan, who was the prosecution's star witness. I'm sure everybody remembers her. It's we'll say it's interesting, to say the least. And we'll also hear from one of the jurors as well at some point during the show today. And luckily, we have 4 hours to get to all this stuff. Now, I preloaded this before the last break, so let's see what happens here.
We are less than 48 hours removed from the moment when the not guilty verdict was handed down in the George Zimmerman murder trial. Tonight, over the course of the next 60 minutes, we'll be coming to you live with complete coverage of this controversial conclusion to one of the most talked about legal cases in recent...
Don't worry, we don't have 60 minutes of Hannity audio. We're not going to play the whole 60 minutes.
In history. Here to kick things off, I'm joined right here in our New York studios by two members of the Zimmerman defense team, attorneys Mark O'Mara and Don West. Welcome to the program.
And this is actually something I found out about attorney Don West yesterday. He was actually a radio disc jockey in the late 70s, early 80s. He worked for WMMR in Philadelphia, a big classic rock station. It's the the big legacy classic rock station in Philly. And he was a DJ there when he was going to Penn Law School.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to both of you.
Thank you very much.
All right, any knock-knock jokes?
Not tonight.
All right, I'm just kidding. I know you probably got a lot. Are you surprised how big this all got?
I am. Actually, I thought it was big to begin with, and I thought it was going to slow down, particularly when the evidence started coming out.
Now, and the ratings, I guess, came out yesterday for the weekend coverage. I guess it was the combined between MSNBC and CNN and Fox. But the ratings were saying, I think, that 10 million people watched the verdict live. And that's insane numbers for cable news. I mean, especially at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, that's insane numbers. So, it was definitely huge.
You first, and then me second, said, look, guys, let's just wait. Sit back. You don't know the evidence yet because I don't know it yet. Let's wait until we have all the evidence. And I thought that would sort of tend to swell the tide or bring it back. But it never did. And part of that was because of the way the prosecutors were hiding some of the evidence and the discovery, and it just kept it at this fever pitch way too long.
And this is actually something that Rush mentioned yesterday. A lot of legal experts are saying that the prosecution should be brought up on civil rights charges by the Department of Justice, because they violated George Zimmerman's rights. I think Rush talked about this yesterday. Alan Dershowitz, who's hardly, a staunch conservative guy. I mean, he's a very liberal law professor at Harvard. Even Alan Dershowitz is saying that the prosecution handled this in such a slimy, disgusting way that they should be charged with civil rights violations.
Agree. We're going to get to that in a minute. Don, what do you think won this case for you?
The evidence.
Well, what are the big factors, in other words? Just for example, I think three things really...
I like his answer there, just the evidence one. And when we hear from the juror lately, you'll see that. I mean, there was in the beginning, they were kind of split, but once they started going over the evidence, there was no question of what was going on.
Came into play for me. The justification, the law... Well, the eyewitness, and I would say even though they weren't necessary, the injuries.
You mean what was the most important evidence in the case? The eyewitness, of course, whose testimony completely corroborated what George Zimmerman said, and also matched the ballistics, matched the medical examiner's testimony, not Dr. Bowles, but rather Dr. Vincent DeMaio.
And that is the big thing, the ballistic evidence that shows that Zimmerman was on the bottom underneath Trayvon Martin. And that's in my belief, that was the biggest part of evidence. Not even the eyewitness, because the eyewitness, I mean, he said he saw Trayvon Martin on top punching down, and I guess that's something. But ballistic evidence is indisputable, and that's, I think, what really turned the case around.
Right.
It all matched up.
Right. One of the things you, in closing arguments, I thought you did a really good job of pointing out to the jury, this is not the same as everyday life. For those that maybe didn't hear it, explain that.
The frustration that I have with juries is they default to what we all do. We all default to this, make a decision every moment of every day because you have to. And that's sort of a very quick decision-making process. The criminal standard is so much higher than that. The beyond a reasonable doubt standard we never use in our daily life. Even getting married or moving or getting a new job is always compromising back and forth. The decision to convict somebody has got to be one which is beyond what you were ever used to.
And that is the main reason why most people don't understand how jury trials work, because they don't understand. I mean, most people can't really grasp the concept of beyond a reasonable doubt as far as anything in their lives. Like you were saying, like if you get married, pretty much anybody out there, especially for those of us who've been divorced, we know nothing is for sure. And you have to be absolutely, positively sure, beyond a reasonable doubt, of guilt. And I think that's what a lot of the people that were crying for Zimmerman's head don't quite grasp. There was not a bit of evidence that supported the prosecution's story. It was just all shoulda, woulda, coulda. Oh, he shouldn't have followed Trayvon. He shouldn't have been a wannabe cop and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't work in court.
My fear, as I said to the jury, is that they will start defaulting back to their normal decision-making processes that hurts a criminal defendant.
Let me go to the justification of the use of force. These were the jury instructions, because I think this was very key in making their decision.
Actually, I'm going to stop it right there before we get into that part. We're going to take a short break. We'll come back and we'll get into some more of this audio. Stay tuned. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
No crazy conspiracies, just good local talk. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. You're listening to Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don right now, 682-1270.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Thanks for joining us this morning. All Zimmerman coverage all the time. It's still the big story. And I promise we will move on when some big national story or hopefully some big local story pops. As you know, the priority of things around here is local first. And hopefully we'll be able to get the mayor in sometime soon to talk about all of the mayors and officials coming from other states to Gillette to kind of see how we do our mining thing. That sounds quite interesting. And, who knows? Maybe I'll be able to get a couple of those mayors in here. That would be actually kind of cool. Maybe get the mayor of Portland or something in here and kind of grill them on why they won't let our coal go through their city or, their state for that matter. But that's another day. Right now, we've been talking about the Zimmerman trial. And I've been playing some audio from Hannity last night, the Zimmerman defense team, and I'm going to back it up a few seconds because Hannity was just about to get into something that deserves our full attention.
That hurts a criminal defendant.
Let me go to the justification of the use of force. These were the jury instructions, because I think this was very key in making their decision. And it says...
See, now this is what the people that don't understand how a criminal trial works, why they're upset now. Everybody that's and you always know the people that really didn't follow the trial that closely because they repeat the same things. That Zimmerman should have listened to the 911 operator. Number one, that's the first one you hear. The number two, that Zimmerman stalked Trayvon Martin when the fact is Zimmerman followed him for a little bit and then turned around and went back to his truck and was jumped from behind. And the evidence shows that. I mean, the physical evidence shows that. And the justification of the use of force, which is different in every state, but Florida law is pretty lenient. As long as there's a reasonable belief, and Hannity will get into it here, as long as there's a reasonable belief that your life is in danger, you're allowed to use deadly force.
An issue in this case is whether or not George Zimmerman, in fact, acted in self-defense. It is a defense to a crime of second-degree murder or the lesser included offense of manslaughter if...
Now, there you go. That's the other thing. A lot of people were saying, well, maybe it wasn't murder, maybe it was manslaughter. Self-defense is an absolute defense to manslaughter as well.
The death of Trayvon Martin resulted from the justifiable use of deadly force. Deadly force means force likely to cause death or great bodily harm. A person is justified in using deadly force if he reasonably believes that such force is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm. If George Zimmerman was not engaged in an unlawful activity and was attacked in any place where he had a right to be.
And he had a right to follow, and he had a right to walk away. And that's exactly what he did, and he was jumped. So that's why deadly force was justified.
He had no duty to retreat, had the right to stand his ground, meet force with force, including deadly force, if he reasonably believed that it was necessary.
Now, don't get this confused with the stand your ground statutes. He had the right to stand his ground there, but it's not the same as a stand your ground case.
To do so to prevent death or great bodily harm to himself or another, or to prevent the commission of a forcible felony. Explain that.
A forcible felony like aggravated assault, which is getting your head beaten into the ground. And looks like we have a call. We don't have a lot of time here, but we'll give it a shot. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. You're on the air.
Yeah, Don, Brad.
Hey, how you doing?
Just listening to this, I'm doing well. Listening to this whole thing, what is amazing and what isn't amazing is that this case was basically a picked up, settled, investigated, dropped case, and then, for whatever reason, political. Picked up, this guy's been thrown under the bus, survives it, now they're talking about this potential. It's not double jeopardy, but potentially it is. But the thing that also, and people are like, well, why are they doing that? You know, why would they do that to someone? And you're like, are you forgetting the guy that they put up as the puppet child of the whole Benghazi deal? That boy's still in prison, and what did he do? He made a YouTube video.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I listen to this thing, and it's like, this whole thing. It's like, I'm glad he was acquitted, but that was done long before he ever got here. But our Justice Department and other means and people behind it decided they wanted to make this some type of a poster child deal, and to try to push their agenda, and it's just disgusting. I'm like, I mean, for anyone who has faith in this system, I mean, our system legal, yes, good, but for those who are ultimately behind it, I mean, to put your faith there, I think is highly questionable. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yep. Excellent call. Excellent points. I can't beat that. So we're going to pick this back up on the other side of the break. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
For the latest on the show, follow Don on Twitter @TheDonCarpenter. News Talk 1270, KIML. Call Don now, 682-1270. News Talk 1270, KIML.
News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Thanks for joining us. And it looks like it's going to be wall-to-wall coverage of George Zimmerman today. Where we left off, Hannity was actually asking Zimmerman's defense attorneys about the self-defense instructions in the jury instructions. And I backed it up a little bit, because, we, especially from hour to hour, we tend to have a little bit different audience. So I figured I'd back it up so that nobody would be lost. But before we do that, let's go to the phones. Okay. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. You're on the air. Okay, let's try this again.
Whether or not George Zimmerman, in fact, acted in self-defense. It is a defense to a crime of second-degree murder or the lesser included offense of manslaughter if the death of Trayvon Martin resulted from the justifiable use of deadly force. Deadly force means force.
And I'm going to pause it there. Looks like we might have gotten that caller back. Let's try again. And Really, guys? Really?
Likely to cause death or great bodily harm. A person is justified in using deadly force if he reasonably believes that such force is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm. If George Zimmerman was not engaged in an unlawful activity and was attacked in any place where he had a right to be, he had no duty to retreat, had the right to stand his ground, meet force with force, including deadly force, if he reasonably believed that it was necessary to do so to prevent death or great bodily harm to himself or another, or to prevent the commission of a forcible felony.
And I want to, and I actually highlighted that part in the last hour, but I want to hit on it again. Not only is it justifiable to use deadly force to prevent great bodily harm or death, but also to prevent the commission of a forcible felony, which includes aggravated assault. Aggravated assault includes beating a guy's head into the concrete. So even if you don't believe that Zimmerman thought that his life was in danger, aggravated assault is a forcible felony, and it's acceptable to use deadly force to stop that forcible felony. So there was absolutely no way that murder or manslaughter could have been applied here by the law. Of course, the jury could have gone on emotion, but the facts of the case did not support any kind of conviction.
Explain that to our audience, because that's the law.
Here are the most critical words. If you reasonably believe that you're about to suffer great bodily injury, you can react with deadly force. We all have that right. Stand your ground laws doesn't matter. Every self-defense case allows you to react to great bodily injury with deadly force. To explain what George did was George suffered 45 seconds of being attacked because we know it was him screaming. Everyone knows it was his screaming now. And he was getting back.
And the juror, we'll play the audio later with the juror. The juror absolutely knew that the screaming on that tape was George Zimmerman.
Because we see the injuries. And he reacted to those injuries at a point when he had to, just like Dennis Root said, he had no other alternatives. He had already tried to scream to stop it, and he'd already asked for help from the witness, and it didn't help. He had no other choice.
Let's go over the irregularities in the case, Don. For example, the withholding of evidence, which your partner mentioned. Explain that.
You know, a moment ago I said, what's the most important thing? Evidence.
And we'll get to that in a second, but let's try going to the phones again. News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Don.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm great. Hey, you know what this whole thing is? This whole thing is nothing but a ruse. You know, we've got some serious issues going on in this country right now, starting with $17+ trillion in debt, embassies being burnt to the ground, IRS targeting people, drones flying around spying on people, and we're concerned about something that happens every single day. This is the national media's attention. This is nothing but a ruse. This is nothing but a smokescreen for what's really going on. All put to you and me and everybody else by our Justice Department. That's my thought.
You know, and it's an interesting point that the Justice Department kind of they see it fit to send somebody down to stir up the pot in Florida, but they can't bother investigating Benghazi and all that other stuff. It really is, it's kind of interesting.
Exactly. It makes absolutely no sense. People need to just really stand back and pay attention to what's going on. And, you know, sorry about Trayvon, sorry about Zimmerman. By the way, Zimmerman can watch my neighborhood anytime. Besides, like I said, the whole thing is just a smokescreen. I mean, there's so much more going on in this country, and it's been brought to you by the Justice Department. The Justice Department and Obama they are guilty of impeachable offenses. I mean, there's things going on right now. People are standing back, still trying to catch their breath, and we're talking about a ridiculous murder. Or not even a murder; it's self-defense. You know.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned drones in there, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all.
You know, I actually saw somebody, and this was just a joke, but you know, it's gotten to this point. Somebody made a joke yesterday. I forget if it was on TV or on on social media somewhere. Somebody made a joke that said if Obama really wanted to go after George Zimmerman, he could just hit him with a drone. And you know, I thought, I'm sure the guy was joking, but we're not that far from something like that happening.
Exactly. And, we won't put our feet down and stand up for being spied upon and targeted and everything else. But yet we've got people on the streets rioting and protesting. We're protesting the wrong stuff here, There's a whole separation of class going on in this country. And it's like Rush says, we've got a huge section of this population that is truly uninformed. We're protesting out in the streets, basically saying that the jury of 6 peers that judged him fairly didn't know what the heck they were doing. This is over. This whole thing is over. They're trying to make something out of this, and it's this uninformed class we've got in this world. Well, obviously, jobs. Obviously, they weren't up at 4 o'clock this morning going to work to take care of their kids and their wife and their house and their mortgage and cars. And, who the heck's got time to stand on the street and wave a flag about something nobody really cares about?
Well, here's the deal. If you notice, the protest didn't get started until the next day. These are organized protests. It wasn't something that just sprung up out of nowhere. The protests are being organized by the same people that are trying to distract us from the other issues.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you heartily.
Anyway, I just wanted to get my 2 cents in there.
Hey, that's what we're here for. Thanks a lot for the call. Excellent points. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll finish up this part of the audio, and then we'll move on. And I promise it won't be all Zimmerman all week. We're just going to kind of wrap this kind of stuff up today, and hopefully we'll get some more information about more important stuff going on. So stay tuned. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
From Washington to Cheyenne to right here in Gillette, Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
This is the Wyoming Business Report.
Call Don right now, 682-1270.
News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter Show. Thanks for joining us this morning. 7:21 here in the studios. And we've been talking about the Zimmerman case. That's pretty much the big story today. And we've still got a bunch to get to. I want to try to get the rest of this audio from Hannity in last night, the defense team talking. Where we left off, the defense team was talking about the prosecutorial misconduct.
As opposed to an appeal to emotion, let's look at the real evidence. And it was like pulling teeth to get the real evidence, the exculpatory evidence, this information that is the foundation of the way the criminal justice system is supposed to work said.
And actually, we're going to stop that and go to the phones. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show, you're on the air.
Good morning, Don.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, I'd be willing to bet the same people that thought George Zimmerman was guilty are the same people that thought O.J. was innocent.
I wouldn't take that bet. I'd tell you that.
I mean, both cases were just ridiculous.
Yeah, and it kind of just goes to show how divided we are as a country still, and it doesn't help that the division is coming from the top.
And there's too much politicism within the justice system now. It's not justice anymore. It's whoever has the deepest pockets, and it's ridiculous.
Well, justice has become something. It's a key word for give us what we want, and whatever the mob wants, that's what they consider justice. They wanted Zimmerman's head on a pike.
Yeah.
And now that they didn't get that, they're going to try to get other things out of it. They're going to try to get gun control out of it. They'll try to get they'll try to get money out of it somehow. I don't know how, but I mean.
Because I heard on another radio show yesterday that one of the jurors in the case, in the Zimmerman case, already signed a book deal. Yeah. And it's actually funny. The same people bashing the juror for signing a book deal now also are still watching Nancy Grace, and Nancy Grace makes millions of dollars off this kind of stuff all the time. I mean,
The last I heard, the book deal actually was taken back. I guess the juror saw everybody was kind of upset about it and decided she wasn't going to write a book. But we'll see how that turns out. I mean, I bet a year from now the book does come out.
Oh yeah, it'll come out.
Yeah. I mean, and it looks kind of bad when you do something like that right after the trial. But I can't say I really blame the juror, to tell you the truth. I mean, she's at least got a story to tell.
Yeah. Well, that's all I had, Don. Have a good day.
Yep. Thanks a lot. Good call. Let's go back to this audio and we'll try to get this in before the bottom of the hour sports.
That the defense is entitled to all exculpatory evidence. And we fought month after month after month just to get what should have been given without the hundreds of hours that it took. So that's the way this started, and unfortunately it continued until the very day the trial started.
What did you think of Angela Corey?
Now, for those not really familiar with the criminal justice process, the sharing of evidence in a case is called discovery. And normally any evidence that is exculpatory, which means it could be used to exonerate the defendant, must be shared with the defense. The prosecution has to show all the evidence, not just what they have that says the guy's guilty, but also what they have that says he's innocent. Of course, prosecution and defense, they go back and forth with this on pretty much every case. I mean, it's not unusual for the prosecution to hold back stuff, but in this case, it was held back so long. I mean, there were some things that were held back, up until the very second that they called a witness or something like that. I mean, it was beyond what is normally done in a criminal trial.
Firing the IT person that exposed this.
I think that's certainly the way.
And that's the other thing. There was a computer guy in the prosecutor's office that exposed some of this holding back of evidence, and he was immediately fired.
She handles her business. I think that's shown in the way she handled the trial, in the ways I guess she trains prosecutors to fail to give over discovery like Don talked about. So I think, that's just in her stripes. But I think it's despicable when somebody comes to the forefront and exposes an unethical behavior that they then get fired even though they have a 4-month-old child.
Special prosecutor, no grand jury, irregular?
Very well. They don't have to impanel a grand jury. But in a case like this, with the type of focus this had, and realizing that you already had a grand jury in place, why not use 18 people from the community to make a decision that they're supposed to be empowered with? Why should you come in from an out-of-area county and come down here and make a decision after praying with the family and not let 18 citizens from Seminole County make the decision they were ready to make?
What about evidence that you wanted to use but were not allowed to use? What is that evidence?
Well, we looked at this case and how...
And we're actually going to pause that right there. We'll pick that up on the other side of the break. But in studio now we have Chad Franzen, the new Basin Radio sports guy. Welcome back.
Hey, good morning. Thank you very much.
So I guess we talked a little bit about the All-Star game in the last break, and I haven't had a chance to check out the video yet. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to check it out after the show. But yeah, apparently, I was looking a little bit more online, and really was a pretty big event.
Yeah, it really was, and the winner. He dominated the first round, and he was the first winner not to make the All-Star game, so he's not an All-Star.
So what was he doing?
And he wins the home run derby. I guess they just invited him.
Yeah, I guess. You wouldn't happen to know how many home runs he has so far this year, would you?
Not off the top of my head. No. I'm sure he's got an impressive amount, though, if they just invited him without being an All-Star.
Yeah, and what team does he play for again?
He is on the Oakland A's.
Oh, okay. Well, that probably explains why he's not an all-star. Moneyball's not working so well these days over there. So I guess. How are you adjusting to life here in Gillette? Still.
So far, so good.
Yeah. Have you found a place to live yet, or?
I have.
Oh, that's right. I remember hearing you were actually pretty on top of things. You actually found a place before you even moved out here, didn't you?
Yeah. I like to get those kinds of things squared away.
Yeah. I wish I was that organized. It took me a couple weeks. So I was.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was.
Sometimes the transition to a new job is hard enough for me to handle, let alone. Moving at the same time.
And I mean, you were probably a little bit more familiar with the area than I was.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm from this region.
Yeah.
It's not hard for me to get home if I need to and come back.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it took me quite a while, but I mean, it's good to hear that you're transitioning pretty well. You're certainly doing better in your first couple days than I did. That's for sure.
Well, you don't see the whole story. I put on a good show.
Well, that's all that matters. It's radio.
All right,
that's all that matters. So I guess we'll see you again in the next hour. Thanks for coming in and talking with us for a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll probably talk a little bit more about sports next time.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks a lot. News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
From Washington to Cheyenne to right here in Gillette, Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don now, 682-1270. News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Thanks for joining us. And if you're just tuning in, it's going to be pretty much wall-to-wall Zimmerman coverage today. That's pretty much all that happened overnight and this morning. It really is. I mean, it's still, although I did see something during the break. Normally, during the breaks, I kind of go around and see if anything's popping up that I need to really cover. And I saw someone actually said that there's a poll that says that most Americans don't care about this case. But I think the coverage of it kind of, or at least the response to the coverage of it, I don't know if that bears out that. You know, maybe it's a small minority that cares, but they're a vocal minority. But it seems like people care about this. I mean, the verdict got huge ratings. All of these interviews with with Piers Morgan and Anderson Cooper talking to the juror and the witness, they got good ratings. I mean, obviously, Piers Morgan and Anderson Cooper need all the help they can get for ratings, but they got good ratings for their respective shows anyway. I guess the next thing we want to kind of go over is what's next for George Zimmerman. And I've already heard stories about he's going around with a bulletproof vest. His whole family's in hiding. It looks like he's getting his gun back, which is good because he didn't commit a crime. If he hasn't already gotten him back, I've heard conflicting stories on that as well. I mean, the first story I heard was that he got it back right away. I'm sure there's paperwork that needs to be done and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, what's next for George Zimmerman? And that's what we're gonna discuss next, because I think, and I still maintain that he should take whatever money he gets from CNN and NBC for trying to destroy his life, publishing his Social Security number and doctoring those 911 tapes. He needs to get that money as quick as possible and leave the country, because he's not going to be safe here. I mean, he has already said he wants to be a lawyer. I mean, that guy's a glutton for punishment if he ever wants to step into a courthouse again. But, maybe he's just one of those guys that always has to do the right thing. Could be. I don't know. If I were him, I'd leave the country because I wouldn't feel safe here. And that's where we're going to start next. Okay, let's get this rolling.
Verdict: we, the jury, find George Zimmerman not guilty.
Are you kidding me? How can they say not guilty for anything? This man did not follow the law.
This nation is not following the laws, really? Screaming into a microphone? I'm pretty sure the law was followed to a T this time for once, at least in the verdict, if not in the prosecution.
The Justice Department shares your concern. I share your concern.
There's Eric Holder. I share your concern, with a lot of dramatic music underneath.
And as we first acknowledged last spring, we have opened an investigation into this matter.
I think the prosecution of George.
So they've been investigating since last spring. Well, why don't they, why haven't they filed charges before now? Because they have nothing.
Zimmerman was disgraceful. As happy as I am for George Zimmerman, I'm thrilled that this jury kept this tragedy from becoming a travesty.
If you commit a crime, then you...
Okay, now, I just want to say whoever produced this bit for Fox News should be fired. The background music is way too high.
You're supposed to be held accountable for that crime. That is not what happened in this case.
As the Justice Department said yesterday, they first acknowledged last year that they have an open investigation into Trayvon Martin's death, and they are continuing to evaluate that evidence.
George Zimmerman was...
Okay, I'm going to try to fast forward past that background music, and we've heard all this before.
Will be
okay. Let's. Okay, here we go. This should be past the background music.
His entire life has changed. His.
And this is Robert Zimmerman, who is the brother, the older brother, and he's been going around in the media. He was actually on a couple of guys I know do a show in New York, and he was on that show yesterday for a good bit, and he's the guy that's been going around in the media to defend George Zimmerman, like a big brother should.
Life changed the moment those two words were uttered, not guilty, and it changed for him. It changed for all of us. We were waiting for that exoneration for a really long time.
What if it had been the other way? Were you ready for that?
I prepared for that.
Now, it's interesting that it said that the whole family has been affected by this. The whole family is getting death threats. I mean, I've seen the death threats to Robert Zimmerman, especially on Twitter. I mean, tons of death threats. The whole family is now in hiding because of this. I mean, there were rape threats towards the lawyer's family. The lawyer's young daughters got threats. I mean, we're not dealing with people that are used to expressing their disappointment in a constructive way. And like I was saying yesterday, I think we've been spared widespread violent riots because a lot of the acting out is just people acting out and saying things especially on the internet where you're sort of anonymous. So I think that might be a contributing factor why we've not seen more widespread rioting in this case. I mean, obviously there's a little bit in L.A. They looted a Walmart, I guess. So I guess there's a little bit of it, but for the most part, we've been spared, L.A. Rodney King style riots, at least for now. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there trying to stir things up yet. Professional community organizers out there trying to stir things up and trying to get those riots that they want. Because civil unrest brings about more control. They can exert more control to stop the civil unrest, and then the control never goes away.
I talked to my parents about that, about if they had prepared themselves for that. We always had faith in Mr. O'Mara and Mr. West, and we knew the facts of the case. We really didn't need a court to tell us what had happened that night and who was screaming or who had been injured and how. But we definitely prepared for, with some of the lesser includeds and some of that last-minute maneuvering to try to get child abuse included, that there could be some confusion. But the jury made the right call.
Was your brother ready for a different verdict, of guilty of murder to or manslaughter, and how do you prepare yourself?
I don't know that he, Greta, I can't speak to what he was thinking, because it changes. He was the only person who had to be there every single day. He encountered every juror, every bit of testimony, and we did not because we were excluded from the courtroom. But George is a spiritual person, and I'm sure he made amends with whatever he had to. I know that he feels he is innocent, and he felt well represented.
And one thing I would like to add about this, I mean, George Zimmerman has said on several occasions that he feels terrible about what he had to do. I mean, he's not happy that he had to kill a 17-year-old boy. I mean, it's not a great thing. He's not happy that he, quote unquote, got away with it, but he had to do what he had to do to protect his own life, and that's he's got his own family. He's got his own life, and when somebody attacks you, you have to defend yourself.
We oftentimes, as lawyers, it's rather clinical. We work hard during the day, and at the end of the day, we say goodbye to our client. We go back to our office and work and prepare for the next day. The client goes home, and the evening to the trials. And it's always, we never really have time to find out how the client's doing. Are there moments of even, great sorrow and nervousness? Did George cry during these times? And was it that kind of thing for him?
Our parents were in the courtroom for the verdict, and my mom told me that he did get emotional. He didn't get emotional right when the verdict was announced, but that he did say he wanted to go home. Mom, I want to go home. And then, started to get very relieved and emotional at that time. I think that George here, he had a lot of participation in his defense in terms of working with Mr. West and Mr. O'Mara. So he did go home at the end of the day, and he had that curfew, but he did have an active hand in trying to prepare or help prepare his attorneys represent him the best they could.
What was the first?
And he was out on bail the whole time. So he had an ankle monitor, which they had to take off, once he was acquitted. And with that, we're going to take a short break. We'll come back. We'll get into a little bit more about this, the future for George Zimmerman. He's going to be basically trapped. Even though he's free, he's going to be trapped. So stay tuned. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
Have an event you'd like to promote on the show? Email Don at doncarpenter@basonsradio.com. Call Don now, 682-1270. News Talk 1270, KIML.
News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Thanks for joining us this morning. 7:49, and as a reminder, we are going to give away a Taco John's breakfast combo in this hour, so kind of narrows it down to when it's going to be. So you'll want to stay tuned for that and wait for the word before you call in on it. And where we left off, we were talking about George Zimmerman's future. And it's wall-to-wall George Zimmerman today. His future, the fact that he's trapped even though he's free.
First thing he said to you, what did you say to him after the verdict?
I will tell you what I said to him, and I said it in Spanish. I said, "Que Dios te bendiga, hermanito," which is the last thing I said to him before before his bond was revoked, which means, "God bless you, little brother." And I think that's exactly what I needed to hear, and I think that's exactly what I needed to say.
You mentioned this Spanish. There's no secret that this has been has a racial overtone. People have been saying things all along. Your brother is Hispanic. What's your thought about it? Because many people, not everyone, I shouldn't say, but pitting this, white against black or black against white, and really sort of the missing element in here is that your family is Hispanic.
Wait, they're Hispanic? But Nancy Grace said he's white. And Reverend Al said he's white.
Right. And, Greta, it's unfortunate that race has any role in this situation at all. And I even think, the prosecutor in her press conference said race did have no role in this case whatsoever.
And the prosecutor gets credit for that. Race had no part in the actual case. It had no part in the actual attack. Well, there's a little bit of evidence that Trayvon might have attacked Zimmerman because he thought he was a cracker. But for the most part, race didn't have any part in it until the media got their hooks in it. And the Justice Department.
However, but as a family, we were deliberate to keep our heritage and our Hispanic identity off the table because it was becoming white versus black, and we didn't see any good in injecting another race into that scenario or another ethnicity to kind of say, if we're Hispanic, then we can't be racist, or, only white people would be racist, certainly not Hispanics. So I think that keeping our race out of it was very deliberate and was very wise, and it was something my mother, who's Peruvian, insisted upon early and often.
These trials are so difficult. People don't, people just sort of concentrate on their one side, whatever their mission is. You ever think of the Martin family, Trayvon Martin family?
Absolutely. We expressed our condolences in a statement, September of 2012. If I ran into Sabrina or Tracy, I would give them a hug. I would express my condolence. condolences to them. I'm inclined to believe George would do the same thing. Now,
I think it's that's an important thing to remember in this. That, I mean, there really are no winners and losers. But obviously, Trayvon Martin was a troubled kid. I mean, I'm sure most of you have listened to Rush yesterday, and they were talking about all the times that he got in trouble, and the school district's policy not to report this to the police department because the police department didn't want stats showing that the school was full of crime. I mean, the kid got busted for drugs. He got busted for theft. He had burglary tools. I mean, he was a troubled kid. I mean, he wasn't beyond hope. He wasn't beyond hope until the point where he attacked an armed man. When you jump somebody from behind and say you're going to kill them and start beating their head into concrete, that's where you have to face the consequences of what you do. But it's still a tragedy.
These things that surround Sabrina and Tracy, Mr. Crump, Miss Jackson, these people who I think really exploited very pure grief, and other race profiteers like the NAACP, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson. That's how I see them. I wouldn't give them a hug. But Sabrina lost her son.
Well, you wouldn't give Reverend Al a hug?
And so did Tracy. And now that we have this verdict of not guilty, I think what I will always remember is the rawness of the emotion, the deafening silence when you hear that your brother took someone's life in self-defense. It still hasn't gone away. The tension of having him on trial is gone, and we know what the resolution is, and we know that.
And that's the real tragedy of this whole thing, that there are people who make their living by stirring up the pot. They either get their votes from it, in the case of the administration, or they make their living off of it, like Jesse Jackson and Reverend Al Sharpton. That's the real tragedy in this case. I mean, you have a dead 17-year-old kid. You have a guy that had to shoot him in self-defense. The police department say that. The prosecutors say that. Until, we'll send the community CRS service or whatever it is from the Department of Justice down there to organize, quote-unquote, organized protests. Then Reverend Al shows up. Then Jesse Jackson shows up. The NAACP shows up. A bunch of celebrities start spouting off about it. All of a sudden, it becomes something that it really wasn't supposed to be in the first place. That's the real tragedy, and that is a disservice to the memory of a dead 17-year-old. The kid was troubled, but he probably wasn't beyond help. I mean, he hadn't committed any serious crimes yet. The system all around failed this kid, and it's still failing him. News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll see you in just a few minutes. Stay tuned for Fox News.
Have an event you'd like to promote on the show? Email Don at doncarpenter@basonsradio.com. Call Don right now, 682-1270.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. .808 here at the studios, and it's been one of those days. I don't know what it is, but I'm just absent-minded today. I completely forgot the Taco John's giveaway in the last hour. We are going to do it at the end of this break. So when I say the word, you can call in and win a Taco John's combo. Not right now, but at the end of this break. I even sat the paper for the read on the board in front of me, so I will not forget it this time. I guess the next place we're going to go with this, Piers Morgan had Rachael Jeantel on his show last night, and it's a pretty long interview. We're not going to play the whole thing, but I do want to play some of it because it kind of gives a little bit different perspective than what we've been doing so far with this case on the show. And I think the last time I tried playing some audio from her when she was testifying, the computer crashed on me. So hopefully this time the computer will let me share with you some of this. We'll just say she's interesting, to say the least.
From the gym was the young woman who was on the phone with Trayvon Martin moments before he died.
And I just want to point out that Piers Morgan does not normally have a studio audience. I just want to point that out. He's got a studio audience tonight or last night. And of course, for those that don't know, Piers Morgan basically came to the United States to do a show here because he was getting ready to be arrested for hacking cell phones of dead people in England. That's the kind of quote-unquote journalist that Piers Morgan is.
This is Rachael Jeantel's first interview since she testified in the trial, and she joins me now exclusively along with her attorney, Rod Vereen. Rachel, welcome to you.
Hi, how are you?
You're very famous now.
Why does she need an attorney? She's not been accused of any crime.
Everybody watched your testimony. Everybody saw somebody who looked like they didn't really want to be there, but also suffering from the fact that you lost your great friend, Trayvon. Tell me, first of all, your reaction to the fact that George Zimmerman was acquitted.
Disappointed, upset, angry, questioned, and mad.
The jury decided.
And I'll try to keep the volume up because she does speak really low, even though she's got a mic right on her. So hopefully we can kind of balance out the audio between Piers and Rachael here.
After a long deliberation, that the prosecution hadn't proved its case. They believed that it was Trayvon on top of George Zimmerman, that it was George Zimmerman's voice on the tape crying out for help, and that therefore they concluded he had acted in self-defense. What do you say to that?
Well, and I just want to, I mean, obviously he's going for the emotional thing here, which, that's fine, but the defense didn't have to prove anything. All the burden was on the prosecution, and the prosecution couldn't prove anything that they accused Zimmerman of. I mean, the prosecution said Zimmerman was on top punching Trayvon, and then Trayvon tried to run away and got shot. None of the evidence, none of the physical evidence matched up with that account. And, obviously, then, Rachael here isn't an expert witness by any means. So, she was just on the phone with Trayvon right before all of this happened.
BS. Just BS.
In your heart, what do you believe happened?
And I might have to translate for you here. She said that the defense and all the evidence that the defense presented was BS.
He was trying to get home, and he was, and that's a fact.
Well, okay. And I actually believe he was trying to get home. I mean, he was just walking home. But he lost his temper and jumped George Zimmerman. That's the point. And that's what the evidence shows. He just lost his temper. We've already established he was a troubled kid. He lost his temper that this guy was sticking his nose in his business. Whether you think that's right or not, that doesn't give you the right to sucker punch somebody from behind and try to beat their head in the concrete. That's the point we're trying to make. Obviously, none of this would have happened if neither of them would have been there. If Trayvon didn't want Skittles and Arizona iced tea, okay, fine. He wouldn't have been there. If Zimmerman wasn't a neighborhood watch captain and didn't want to walk to Target that night, he wouldn't have been there. But the fact is they were both there. And this did happen. And the way the jury weighed the evidence bears out the way the law says this should have ended.
And you know that because you were talking to him?
Yes, sir.
One thing we didn't get in this trial, Rachael, was a real...
Yeah, Piers Morgan doesn't deserve a sir. You don't have to say sir to Piers Morgan.
...sense of what Trayvon Martin was really like. Nobody knew him better than you. How often would you talk to Trayvon?
All day.
All day long?
Yeah, all day.
You were telling me earlier you had phone records that were produced where it was literally all day.
Yeah, they show me phone records.
And I'm sure most of you have seen this girl. Trayvon was a good-looking kid. He could have done a lot better.
I had to say, wow.
All day long. You're on your Bluetooth?
Bluetooth.
Just talking to Trayvon.
I have 3 Bluetooth, so trust me, I'm never running out of time.
Well, she had 3 Bluetooth. I don't even know what to say about that. Why do you need 3 Bluetooth headsets? We're going to take a short break. We'll come back and we'll get in a little bit more of this. Piers Morgan with Rachael Jeantel. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
Out of town and still want to listen? Stream the show at DonCarpenterRadio.com. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270, KIML.
You know what? I almost forgot it again. But we got a call. News Talk 1270, KIML. You want the Taco Johns?
Yes, sir.
You remembered and I forgot, so guess what? You get it.
Thank you.
I'm telling you, it's one of those days. So hang on the line. I'm going to put you on hold. We'll go to break for real this time, and I'll get your info off the air.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Oh, I'm telling you, it's one of those days. We'll try this one more time. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270, KIML.
News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Thanks for joining us. Your George Zimmerman trial wrap-up headquarters here. I don't know. I have to come up with a name for it. If this is going to be the big story of the week, I need to come up with a name for my George Zimmerman coverage. We're going to go back into this audio with Piers Morgan last night. Rachael Jeantel, she was the prosecution star witness. She was on the phone with Trayvon Martin before all this happened, and apparently where we left off, she said she had 3 Bluetooths. I can't even get the accent right. But she had 3 Bluetooth headsets. I don't know why she needed 3 of them, but she had 3 of them to talk to Trayvon Martin all day long. And like I said, he was an athletic young guy. I mean, he could have done a little bit better, I think.
What kind of guy was he?
He was a calm, chill, loving person. Loves his family, definitely his mother, and a good friend.
What would you talk about?
Really, what we're going to be in life, how life's going to happen, what's going on currently around that time.
Yeah, pretty much the same stuff that teenagers talk to when they talk about when they're on the phone. I don't know what the question is going there. I mean, he was 17 years old. I guess she was 18 at the time. So, I mean, it's not like they were having deep, thoughtful discussions. I mean, they were teenagers talking about teenager stuff.
And mind you, around that time, it was both of our birthday had passed. So we were talking about what happened and that.
He was a good friend to you? A kind friend?
Yes.
Was he ever aggressive?
No.
Did you ever see him aggressive?
No.
Did he ever lose his temper?
No.
Well, but their video exists of the kid. Now, he wasn't fighting angry, but he was, they would stage little street fights, mixed martial arts kind of stuff where they would fight each other in the streets. And now this wasn't out of anger, but I mean, to say he wasn't aggressive, the evidence in the story proves that he was aggressive. I mean, but then again, I guess, as a character witness, I'm sure he wasn't aggressive to her. They were friends. I mean, I'm sure he was cool to his friends, I'm sure.
He really was a calm guy.
Yes.
So when people have tried to paint a picture of a young thug because he was in a hoodie and was walking home. No, Piers. People were painting a picture of a young thug because he jumped a man from behind for just following him around and kind of keeping an eye on him. That's all. When you jump somebody from behind and try to beat their head in the concrete, you are a thug. It's not
portraying anybody as anything. I mean, you are what you are. If you try to kill somebody by beating their head in the concrete, you're a thug. Sorry.
First of all, Trayvon is not a thug. They need to know a definition of.
And the pictures on his cell phone of him smoking weed and holding a gun and making gang signs, well, none of that stuff ever made it to the trial, but if you do a Google search, you can find it.
A thug. To be judging a person, well, a teenager, mind you, a teenager could post anything, even I post anything, to just brag. That's just brag.
You mean the stuff on social media, Facebook and so on?
That's just brag.
Well, okay. Now, she's actually making a good point there that he might have just been bragging and, posting pictures of guns and then, posting pictures of himself smoking weed and that kind of stuff. Okay, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt there, but he became a thug when he attacked George Zimmerman from behind. And again, I hate to say over and over again, but when you try to pound somebody's head into the concrete, you're a thug. Sorry.
It's not true.
Again, they tried to paint a picture of somebody interested in guns, who took a lot of drugs. Let's get to the truth about that. Did he ever talk to you about guns?
No.
Did you ever see him with a gun?
No.
There are pictures on his cell phone of him holding a gun.
What about drugs?
Drugs. Okay. Weed, you say marijuana, but in my area, we say weed.
I think in pretty much everybody's area. Look, even the lawyer kind of almost cracked up at that one. Actually, Piers Morgan's from England. I think they call it cannabis over there. They don't even call it marijuana. Let's go to the phones. Okay. Excellent point.
My area, weed, for Trayvon, I can explain one thing. We don't make him go crazy. It just make him go hungry.
But he did.
That's the best thing I could say. He make him hungry.
Did he take a lot of weed?
No.
How much would you say?
Like twice a week.
Twice a week?
Yes.
Is that normal for teenagers in your community?
Yes, real normal.
You would do the same?
Actually, we're gonna pause it there. I'll back that up after the next break. But in studio, we have our new sports guy, Chad Franzen. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. That's interesting stuff.
Yeah. I won't ask you. I won't ask you to make any comment on that kind of stuff. We'll kind of keep the sports and the talk about weed making people hungry separately. I never did that kind of stuff, so I don't know. I mean, I don't need anything to make me hungry, though. I mean,
no, me neither.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're like a skinny dude. I mean, you're a lot skinnier than I am. So
yeah, well,
I wish I had that kind of metabolism.
A little work goes into it.
Well, I bet, and that's actually something I've been really meaning to do. One of these days, I'm going to. One of these days, I'm actually going to talk about it on the show, maybe, and kind of get people to give me some suggestions on gyms and that kind of stuff to go to around here.
Oh, yeah.
I guess you haven't found a gym yet or anything?
No, I've looked at the recreation center.
Yeah, apparently they have I've driven past it. I haven't been there yet, and I actually had some folks on the show from the rec center, and it's a really nice facility. But I guess you probably can't do a whole lot right now anyway.
No, yeah, I hurt my leg, but I'm looking forward to being able to do something sometime.
Yeah. Well, so, you said you had knee surgery. I mean, what exactly happened?
I'm a runner. Well, I run sometimes, and I was just out for a normal light jog, and I felt a little pop in my knee in about mile 3, and turns out I tore my meniscus.
Oh boy!
So I had to have surgery last week.
So I guess have they told you you'd be able to go back to running afterwards, or
they did? They told me it would be about 2.5, 3 weeks. Right now, it's been a week. I had it a week ago today, and I don't feel like I'm on that track, but we'll see what happens.
3 weeks and you can run again? I mean, I've seen people get knee surgery and they tell them to take up biking or swimming or something.
Yeah, that's what he told me. I'm thinking I probably will take up biking or swimming.
This is a good place around here to bike. I mean, there's lots of good roads to bike on around here.
Oh, that's good.
And yeah, I mean, you see a lot of people doing it. And I don't know if anybody's really told you yet, but this is a really, really active community.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere you go, you see people running, riding bikes. Softball's the big thing.
Oh, really?
Oh, you haven't heard about the Field of Dreams yet?
I have not.
Oh boy, okay. Well, I'll just kind of give you the lowdown on it. The city is building a big softball complex because softball is such a big thing around here that, and as a sports guy, you'll need to know this too. Softball is such a big thing around here. The leagues go all night. They play until midnight.
Really?
They start off. I think they like every batter that comes up in some leagues starts with, I think, 2 strikes. So you only get 1 strike.
Yeah.
I mean, everything to make the game shorter. So they're building this big complex with a bunch of new fields, and it's going to be nice, field turf and everything. And apparently, it's a big controversial issue. And so anytime you ever go out in public and somebody mentions the Field of Dreams, get ready for an argument because people either love it or they hate it. So
okay.
I'll just give you a little bit of warning about that.
Appreciate that.
So I guess in the sports update coming up, we're going to hear about the All-Star.
Yeah, we got rodeo finals. And, we have the All-Star game coming up tonight.
Yeah, so it definitely. Finally, we're getting some sports. I guess the last couple of days has been kind of slow. So
it's been a little slow, yes.
Yeah.
The day after the All-Star game is especially slow. Professionally, that's the only day of the year, I believe, where there's nothing going on.
Oh, yeah. There's no basketball. Basketball's finished. Hockey's finished. I guess tomorrow we'll be hearing about rodeo.
Yes, we will.
There you go. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
Out of town and still want to listen?
Stream the show at DonCarpenterRadio.com.
Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. You're listening to Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Thanks for joining us this morning. 8:37 here at the studios, and I actually backed up the audio from where we left off. We were listening to Rachael Jeantel, who was Trayvon Martin's friend, and she was on Piers Morgan last night. And where we left off, she was talking about Trayvon Martin's drug use, and she was saying that all he ever did was he smoked marijuana every once in a while, a couple times a week, which, it's not that unusual. I'm not going to pass judgment on the kid for that. And I honestly think it had nothing to do with him attacking Zimmerman either. I mean, I've never done any kind of illegal drugs. I've never done any of that kind of stuff. That just never was my thing. Now, I've known people that have. I mean, I've known people. I'm an adult. I've seen people that smoke marijuana before, and I've never seen anybody get violent from it. So I don't think that had anything to do with the case. I mean, it speaks to the character of the kid. I mean, I have a 17-year-old kid that doesn't act like, and a lot of this is talking about Trayvon Martin acted like a teenager does. I have a 17-year-old. And it's a daughter. I mean, a daughter, but she doesn't act anything like Trayvon Martin did. Although I will say she has posted pictures of her holding guns on Facebook, but it's she's into shooting as a sport, not holding a handgun and acting like some kind of rapper. I mean, that's a little bit different. So let's go back to this, and I think I backed it up a little bit, where Pierce was just going to ask about the drug use.
Drugs. Okay. Weed, you say marijuana, but in my area, we say weed. My area, weed for Trayvon.
What area do they say wacky tobacco? That was always my favorite euphemism.
I can explain one thing. We don't make him go crazy. It just make him go hungry.
He did.
I mean, again, I've never done it. I've never seen anybody go crazy from doing it. I've heard people say that it can make you paranoid, but then again, that's all anecdotal. And nobody seemed to think, even the defense didn't seem to think that, drug use had anything to do with it. If he was on PCP or something, that would be a different story. But I mean, just smoking a little bit of weed, I mean, I don't think that has anything to do with it other than to speak to his character.
Right. That's the best thing I could say. He make him hungry.
Did he take a lot of weed?
No.
How much would you say?
Did he take a lot of weed there, Pierce? Did he take a lot of weed, Pierce? Really? Well, I guess maybe he could be taking those medical marijuana pills that they tried years and years ago. But I don't think you take it. I'm not an expert, but I'm pretty sure you don't take it.
Like twice a week?
Twice a week?
Yes.
Is that normal for teenagers in your community?
Yes, real normal.
You would do the same?
No, because I don't. No.
You don't take it?
No.
Well, she's going to say that because her lawyer's sitting there with her, I guess. But apparently she doesn't take weed either.
You knew Trayvon did. He would tell you that. We know that there was some evidence of that in his blood.
Yes.
What the defense again tried to paint a picture of was somebody who, because of the drug use, that would make him more violent.
No. That, like I said, that's BS. That's just their opinions.
And the defense didn't really say that the drug use made him violent. I think they were just doing that as a character thing. Nobody was saying that.
That's the problem in this case. That was their opinion.
Do you think they understood?
Well, it was their opinion. Okay, fine. That's their opinion. Even if you buy that, when I don't think they were saying that marijuana made Trayvon Martin attack anybody. But it's the states, and this girl is actually a good representative of the people that supported the state's case in this. She doesn't know how the legal system works. It's not the defense's job to prove anything. All they have to do is disprove what the state was trying to prove. It's the state's burden to do all of this. And this is why I wanted to share this with you. This girl is not unusual, especially for the people that support Trayvon Martin's side of the story in this. Really, I mean, she is very typical of the people that were going after George Zimmerman.
The world that you and Trayvon come from?
No.
Don West gave you a very hard time, the defense attorney.
Don West.
What is your view of him?
I have to say, he lucky I'm a Christian.
I want to clear up one thing before.
I will say the girl's got a sense of humor. I mean, she in her own way, she's likable. I mean, she's got a sense of humor. I got to give her that.
We come on to Don West. A lot of people have mocked you. Well, they've called you all sorts of things. You know that on Twitter. I came to your defense at one stage because I found it so disgusting. They called you stupid. Mm-hmm. They were very racist to you. The people I saw on Twitter, a lot of people were very racist to you. Mm-hmm. But they also mocked you for the way that you spoke.
Okay.
Now, explain to me the background to that.
The way I speak. A lot of people have the same issue I have right now. Okay, how I can say this?
Well, what's the issue?
I had this situation since kindergarten. You could figure out how I speak. I have an underbite.
Mm-hmm.
For me...
Which is a dental condition for your teeth?
No, a bone.
A bone, right.
They gotta push back.
Okay, that makes sense.
And
you had to have surgery for it?
Yeah, I got to have surgery to push it back. And right now, I don't want to do it because it takes a year to heal. And then a lot of people have that situation. The words I can say, it can't come out right. But
have you been bullied for that before?
Look at me. No.
See, I'm not going to say anything about the way she talks because, not everybody has perfect diction and speaking ability. So I'm not going to go there. That's low hanging fruit. We'll let everybody else deal with that kind of stuff. And I don't think she should have been attacked in racist ways or anything. But I figured I'd share this with you because she is an interesting character from the trial. And she's got a sense of humor. Obviously I think she's woefully misinformed and she has no idea how the criminal justice system works. But she seems like a pretty good kid. And with that, we're going to take a break. We'll come back and we'll finish. Well, we probably won't finish this up in this hour, but we'll try to. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
He likes turtles too. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
Savor the flavor with Arby's. Don't be a breakfast skipper. Set the tone for your day with breakfast at Arby's. Enjoy egg, crisp bacon, and sausage. Served on your choice of a warm wrap, croissant, fluffy biscuit, or sourdough sandwich. Choose sweet French toast sticks, sausage with gravy, and more. All while enjoying a hot cup of fresh brewed coffee. Don't deny yourself the most important meal of the day. Refuel your body and jumpstart your morning with the good mood food from Arby's. In Gillette, served Monday through Saturday at 6, Sundays at 7, and in Sheridan every morning at 7.
Honda of Casper won't let finances stand between you and the new or used vehicle you want. They have financing options for every credit situation. And out-of-town buyers stay free at the Parkway Plaza. Find out more at Honda of Casper. Online at hondaofcasper.com.
Attention, this is a legal alert for anyone who has suffered complications from a Stryker Rejuvenate or ABG2 hip implant or certain metal-on-metal hip implants manufactured during specific years. If you or someone you know has suffered failure of your Stryker Rejuvenate or qualifying metal-on-metal hip implant, resulting in pain and disability that may have required revision surgery, then you may be entitled to significant compensation for your pain and suffering. To protect yourself, you need experienced legal representation. Please call the Hip Replacement Legal Hotline at 1-800-LAW-6789. That's 1-800-LAW-6789. Your ability to file a claim depends upon your precise type of hip replacement device and the date of surgery. Call the Hip Replacement Legal Hotline today at 1-800-LAW-6789 or visit them on the web at hipdevicerecall.com. Presented by Whites & Luxembourg, PC. Prior results do not guarantee a future outcome.
What's happening in Campbell County? Presented by First National Bank, Campbell County's only hometown bank, downtown in RC Ranch and on South Douglas Highway.
Pre-registration deadline for the fourth leg of the 2013 Feet Don't Fail Me Now Road Race Series is this Sunday, and the United Way 5K Run Walk is Tuesday, July 23rd. The Kids 1K starts at 6:15, runners and walkers start at 6:30. Pre-registration fee is $14 and includes a t-shirt. Race day fee is $17 with a t-shirt. No t-shirt cost is $7, and Kids 1K fee is $6. Explore Beneath the Surface Underground Science Week is the theme this week for the Teen Summer Reading Program at both the Gillette and Wright Public Libraries. They will learn about mummies, fossils, and ancient civilization. The deadline for the second annual graphic novel character contest sponsored by the Campbell County Libraries is 8:30 p.m. July 31st. Entry forms are available at both the Gillette and Wright Libraries, and there are 4 divisions, grades 1 through 6, 7 through 12, ages 18 and up, and computer generated. Winners will be announced August 12th.
Now, from the News Talk 1270 KIML Weather Center.
Another beautiful day today. It'll be sunny with a high near 84 tonight. Partly cloudy, the low around 60, and for tomorrow, sunny and a little bit warmer with a high near 90. 69 degrees and fair at the airport. That's your weather update here on News Talk 1270 KIML.
Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270, KIML. Don Carpenter Show. 8:49. Wow. Trying to put myself back 2 hours. I'm telling you, it might as well be a Monday the way things are going today. We're forgetting to do giveaways, and I never forget my giveaways. I enjoy doing those. I forgot to do that. Luckily, the caller called and reminded me of it, and he got the win because of that. We'll do another one tomorrow. We'll give away prime rib tomorrow, so you want to stay tuned. Okay. I think we did as much as we needed to from the first part of the Rachael Jeantel interview on Piers Morgan. I have another part, and this is the part where she talks about the racial comments. And this is something that a little bit more serious side of the story.
My exclusive with the star witness in the George Zimmerman trial, Trayvon Martin's friend, Rachael Jeantel. Lots of tweets pouring in here, and tweet me at Piers Morgan if you want to. One here from Tina, feeling proud of Rachael Jeantel right now. Dignity and grace. A lot of people saying the same thing. They're seeing a very different...
Obviously, Piers is only reading the nice ones. We'll just say there were a lot of nasty things being said, and I'll be honest. I mean, this girl seems nice enough. I mean, I'm not going to attack her. I will attack Piers, and Piers is a scumbag.
Rachael tonight to the person that they saw in the courtroom under all that stress and tension. I want to talk to you a bit more about Trayvon, but first of all, I want to play another clip from Anderson Cooper's interview with the juror, the first juror to speak out. Let's watch this.
And we're actually going to hear that interview in the next hour, but we'll play this a little bit.
A lot of the times she was using phrases I have never heard before and what they meant.
When she used the phrase creepy-ass cracker, what did you think of that?
Well, did Anderson just pronounce it cracker with an A at the end? Oh, props to Anderson for getting it right.
I thought it was probably the truth. I think Trayvon probably said that.
And did you see that as a negative statement or a racial statement, as the defense suggested?
I don't think it's really racial. I think.
Well, I don't know if it's it's obviously racial, but I think it's probably not necessarily negative. We'll just put it that way. I don't think that I mean, but then again, who knows what was in Trayvon's head?
I think it's just everyday life. The type of life that they live and how they're living in the environment that they're living in.
What's your reaction to that?
Well, the juries, they see their fact. None offense to the jury, they old. That's old school people. We in a new
and just to translate for you, she's saying the jury was old.
School. Our generation, my generation. So
well, why is the crowd applauding that? They old. The crowd applauds that.
Let's talk about creepy ass cracker. People have said that is a phrase used by black people, cracker, to describe a white person. Is that true?
No.
Wait. Hold on. We got to back that up. I want you to hear this again.
Describe a white person. Is that true?
No. Like I said.
How do you spell it, first of all?
Cracker. Well, you could put.
There's no ER, right? It's
an A at the end.
C-R-A-C-K-A.
Yeah. And that's a person who act like they're a police.
Oh, okay. Okay. He's acting like he's a police. Let's go to the phones. I knew that was going to get a call. Okay, maybe not. He's acting like he's a police.
Who, like a security guard who acting like, that's what I said to them. Trayvon said, creepy ass cracker.
It means he thought it was a policeman or security guard?
Acting like a policeman, and then he keep telling me that the man's still watching him. So if it was a security guard or a policeman, they would come up to the Trayvon and say, do you need a problem? Do you have a problem? Do you need help? like normal people.
And if George Zimmerman had done that, if he'd introduced himself as a neighborhood watch patrolman, even though he was off duty, if he'd done that, what would Trayvon have said to him, do you think?
No, I'm just trying to get home. I'm waiting for the rain to slow down. So
this is too good to cut off, but I'm going to have to cut it off. We're at the top of the hour break. When we come back, we'll do a little bit more of this before we get into the juror, because this is just too interesting. So stay tuned. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We got Fox News coming up, Basin Radio News, more from Rachael Jeantel, the star witness for the prosecution in the George Zimmerman murder trial. We'll be right back after this.
For the latest on the show, follow Don on Facebook. Just search for Don Carpenter Radio. News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter Show. Thanks for joining us this morning. It's been a busy day with a lot of George Zimmerman stuff, and we're not going to get anywhere near all of it today. But where we left off, we were talking about Rachael Jeantel. She was the prosecution star witness. She was a friend of Trayvon Martin. She was on the phone with him on the night in question. And where we left off, first they played a clip from one of the jurors saying that she didn't believe the word cracker was a racial insult or anything like that. And then Pierce asked Rachael if she thought it was used to refer to white people. And she says, no, it's used to refer to police or people acting like, as she says, a police. And that's where we left off.
I could go catch the game, the All-Star game.
That was all he wanted to do?
Yes.
They've implied that he was looking suspicious. George Zimmerman thought that Trayvon was walking around looking at houses in a suspicious way.
Trust me, no.
And that's the other thing. Both the prosecution and the defense say that Trayvon was walking close to houses. The prosecution side of the story was that he was doing it to get out of the rain, which it's believable. But you got to remember they had a rash of burglaries in the area. So whatever the intent was, the appearance was kind of strange. And it had nothing to do with the fact that he was wearing a hoodie or carrying a bag of Skittles candy or drinking iced tea or any of that kind of stuff. It didn't have to do with his skin color. I mean, we've already established that George Zimmerman, I mean, he's helped he's helped black youths in the community. The guy doesn't have a racist bone in his body. It had nothing to do with that. The fact that he was walking close to houses on a dark, rainy night is basically why his suspicions were raised in the first place.
No, Trayvon lazy. That's first of all. He lazy there. Sorry, but no.
Did he ever show any interest in burglaring houses or intruding?
What did he want a burglary for?
Okay. Did he ever show interest in burglaring houses? I mean, besides the fact that he got caught with burglary tools at school, and he got caught with stolen merchandise at school, stolen jewelry, earrings that belonged to other people, some stuff like that. Of course, she's not going to say that.
He supposed to have left that day anyway. So, why he want a burglary for? He don't even live there. He don't know nobody there. He only know his brother, or his stepbrother, and his father, and his father.
And again, I don't think, and this is just my opinion, and from following the case for the last year and a half, I don't really think that he was up to anything no good that night. I really don't. I don't think he was out to break into houses and that kind of stuff. But the appearance, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And Zimmerman, followed him for a little bit, then turned around and walked away. And I think emotions and a temper got a little bit, got the best of Trayvon. and he decided to run Zimmerman down. That's what happened. I mean, there was no crime committed until Trayvon, and I don't think there was ever an intention to commit a crime until Trayvon decided to jump Zimmerman, and that's where it all went wrong.
The girlfriend.
When you heard the tape of George Zimmerman saying that these a-holes, these effing punks, they're always getting away with it, before he has the confrontation with Trayvon, what did you think was going through George Zimmerman's mind when he said that?
I'm finally going to get one that night.
And be honest with me, Rachel.
Oh, come on.
You think that was racially motivated, or more a case of somebody he thought was a young thug, black or white?
It was racial. Let's be honest. Racial. If Trayvon was white and he had a hoodie on, would that happen? Because that was around 7 o'clock or something. That's around that people walk their dogs, people stay outside, all that.
The juror tonight made it clear that the jury never really discussed race as being a motivating factor here.
Remind you, they're white. Well, one Hispanic, but she stuck in the middle.
5 white women on the jury and 1 Hispanic lady.
Yeah.
I think the only people. Okay, now the only people that have been bringing up race in this are the side that supported the prosecution. And in the prosecution's credit, they didn't play the race card at trial. Probably because they knew they were going to lose if they did. Obviously, they lost anyway, but it was a non-starter. There was absolutely not a single shred of evidence, and Eric Holder is not going to be able to find a single shred of evidence to prove that George Zimmerman has a racist bone in his body. It's just not there. But you can't tell some people something. I mean, the people that believe that this is racially motivated are not going to accept any evidence to the contrary. They'll just ignore it. They'll stick their fingers in the air and la 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 and act like it's not there because they don't want to hear that. Because justice has become something where if you don't get what you want, you just complain, and in the case of in Oakland or in LA, you loot Walmarts, or you file lawsuits, or you go to the president. If you don't get what you want, you just keep trying, because justice isn't about doing the right thing. It's about getting what you want. With that, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll finish up this, and then we'll get into the juror. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
If it's happening in Wyoming, he's talking about it. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270, KIML. You're listening to Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don right now, 682-1270.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. $9:20 here at the studios, and I want to thank you for joining us this morning. We're just wrapping up the audio from Piers Morgan last night, Rachael Jeantel, Trayvon Martin's friend. Where we left off, let's be honest, she was playing the race card. That's where we left off. I mean, there's no need to even dance around the subject. She was playing the race card. She says Zimmerman shot Trayvon because he was black.
It was going to be a not guilty, so.
Because of the makeup of the jury, do you think it was just wrong that you had no black people on the jury at all?
Not that. They don't understand. They understand, oh, he was just bashed or he was killed. When somebody bashed somebody, like blood people, trust me, in the era I live, that's not bashing. That's just called whoop ass.
Okay. I'll kind of translate this for you. She's saying that Trayvon wasn't trying to kill Zimmerman. She was just saying he was going to beat him up. Or as she says, whoop ass. Even if you buy that, the law doesn't matter. It doesn't matter under the law. Deadly force is justified in the stopping of a violent forcible felony. Aggravated assault is a forcible felony. You're allowed to use deadly force in the state of Florida to prevent an aggravated assault. So it's still justified. But the people that are playing the race card here, they don't understand. Well, I'm sure they would understand that if they would just think about it and open their mind up to it.
You just got your ass whooped. That's what it is.
Would Trayvon, if he had been attacked or had been confronted and he was scared, would he have whooped ass, as you put it? Could he look up? Would he have done that?
I mean, I gotta say, I mean, she's charming in a certain way. News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. You're on the air.
Hey, Don, this is Linda.
Hey, Linda, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. I'm calling about this hate issue. You know, what really disturbed me yesterday is that Holder came out and is filing hate charges against Zimmerman and the race card and all of these other things. And nobody seems to be upset about that. I mean, they really need to consider the fact that he has already been through court. The jurors are saying that race did not play an issue in their decision. It wasn't an issue in this case. And it's the president and the attorney general that are instigating all of these issues with the public. And so that really irritates me.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's people that have something to gain by stirring up the pot are the ones that are doing it.
Well, and I don't understand. I mean, I never did understand why in the very beginning it needed to go there. And, you know, Jesse Jackson, he's out there saying, well, Trayvon's legacy and all of this stuff. You know what? I feel horrible for that kid. I feel horrible for his family. I feel horrible for Zimmerman. And the thing that really makes me upset is the fact that the people that we elect and put into place to run our country are the ones who are instigating all of the things that keep us divided. Yeah, and let's be honest, I mean, a lot of people were saying that this kind of stuff was going to happen before 2008, and I mean, it's you know, to coin a phrase, I mean, chickens are coming home to roost. Well, they are, and you know what? We need to get rid of some of the chickens, but I don't quite know how to do that without instigating the race card and the hate crime and all of those other things. And I think the sad commentary on the whole thing is that this country is divided, and it has been divided on purpose. And if you look back in history, you can find many parallels about how countries that are divided soon crumble from within. And that's what happened to the Roman Empire, the greatest empire in history, and that's what happened to them. It wasn't anybody from the outside coming in, it was from the inside, and it was taken care of quite quickly because the citizens were going through exactly what we're going through right now. And people don't have time to go back and look at that history and say, geez, we should be learning from that. That's the problem. We need to learn from what's already happened.
Yeah, well, the people in power have too much to gain from dividing the people, and that's, I mean, and after 2008, when you get your your first black president, that should have been a uniting thing, and it wasn't. It just wasn't. I mean, they picked the wrong guy.
Well, I think they did pick the wrong guy, and we have to realize too that he's the mouthpiece for whoever his backers are. He's the mouthpiece. And I don't know how much, I really have no idea how strong he really is as far as coming up with his own ideas, because I don't know that he has any of his own. And so every president has had a committee or a group that feeds them the ideas that they are to put out there. It would be interesting to know who Obama's are.
Well, I mean, we know who a lot of them are. It's the people he brought with him from Chicago, and that's, I mean, look at how that's worked out. I mean, basically the whole country's turning into Chicago.
Well, yeah, but here we need to look at this too. A lot of his Chicago buddies aren't real happy with how things are going either, because he isn't strong enough. On any given day, you know, he's talking opposite of what he was talking before. So I don't know. It's just easy to keep everybody in turmoil. and keep us working hard and expecting the government to take care of everything, and they're taking care of it all right.
Well, they sure are.
I just don't know how well we're going to like it when they get done taking care of everything.
It's not looking good right now, and to be honest, I don't know the answer to how we can kind of put the brakes on it.
Well, the problem is all of the people in this country, even the wealthy people, are struggling because they're trying to figure out how to maintain their assets. The middle class is trying to pay their bills, and the poor people are standing in line for government programs that the middle class and the wealthy are paying for. And I'm not saying that I am against helping someone in need, but at some point, I used to think when I was a teacher, you know what, I would do anything I could to help a student. But at some point, I had to let go of their hand and let them figure it out for themselves. And it's, I don't know when we're going to get to that point in this country where we start saying, you know what, in the Bible it says if you don't work, you don't eat. But we're sure making sure everybody's eating and they're not having to work. Well, they only need to get in line for a government program.
I mean, I don't know if I'm the first person to ever point this out, but it seems like we've almost gotten a class of professional voters that their only job is to show up every 4 years and push a button and go home and collect another check.
Well, yeah, and you know what? I mean, I don't know. I'm with you. I don't know what we have to do, but I've called and I've always pointed out the fact, if you look back in history, you'll find so many comparisons to what exactly has happened to our country. And what is it about? It's like this country is run by a bunch of teenagers who only live in the microsecond. They don't use the past to help make a decision in the present, and they don't look to the future for hope. They just live in the microsecond, and they do whatever they have to do to survive in that. And that's what our government does.
Yeah, I mean, instant gratification is the word of the day.
Yep, I think you're right.
Yep.
So I just wanted to call and talk about that for a second. And just one other little thing. Today's the last day to sign up for the Miss Campbell County pageant. And I have those applications down there at Top Notch Auto. And we're at 1502 West 2nd here in Gillette between Grays and Value Villa. So we'd like to thank you for all your help on that pageant, and I know we're going to see you on the day of the pageant when we give you the ballots and you get to exercise your right to vote.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'll probably need a little bit of guidance on what I need to look for there, so we'll talk about that when the time comes.
You'll be schooled well. You'll know what to vote for.
Well, I'll do my best.
All right. Well, have a great day.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Linda. Always good to hear from you. Excellent points. Again, I couldn't have put it better myself. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to hear from the juror. I think it's time we actually hear from someone who made the decision. And I imagine most of us out there, with maybe a few exceptions, think they made the right decision. So we'll talk about that when we come back. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show.
He likes turtles too. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. You're listening to Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don right now, 682-1270.
News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. 9:35 here at the studios. I want to thank you for joining us this morning. We're just wrapping up the George Zimmerman stuff. Hopefully there'll be some more local and national news going on tomorrow. I know a lot of people are kind of burnt out on the George Zimmerman stuff. It was too hard to resist with all the good interviews that we had last night. We played the Rachael Jeantel interview, some of it, and commented on that. The last one I want to play for you today is Juror B37. The first juror to come forward. She was the one that was reported to have signed a book deal. Now she's saying she's not going to write a book. We'll see what happens with that. I guess, we've heard the defense side, we've heard the prosecution side. Let's hear how the jury actually took all of this. And I do want to say, I got to give Anderson Cooper credit. CNN and Headline News and MSNBC have been so despicable through this. But Anderson Cooper has been fair. And I think that is, you got to give the guy credit. He gets a lot of bonus points for being fair with this.
Jury room. What does she think really happened the night George Zimmerman shot and killed Trayvon Martin? There's that, whether she thinks race played a role, and a lot more. Here's part one of our exclusive conversation. When you first sat down on the jury, when you first gathered together, what was it like? Did you know how big this was?
Unreal. It was unreal. It was like something that, why would they want to pick me? You know? Why would I be picked over all these hundreds of people that they interviewed?
Now, and I will say I've been lucky. I've never had to do jury duty in my life. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be picked for something like this. Because for one thing, they only give you like $25 a day or something like that. You have to take time off of work. She was out of work for a month or something for the whole trial. I mean, you got to take off work. They don't pay you much. And plus you have a huge responsibility, especially in a case like this. I mean, my mom did jury duty once years and years ago when I was a kid. And she had a case where it was a fight or some kind of assault case or something like that. And she was in and out in a couple hours. That's not the case with something like this. So, I mean, a lot of the people that are criticizing this juror for wanting to write a book about her experience, I mean, I kind of sympathize with the jurors in this case. And I really don't have much of a problem with them writing a book about it. As long as it's honest, as long as it's an honest account of what happened, I have no problem with it. A lot of the people that have this problem with them are the same ones sitting watching Nancy Grace and MSNBC and Piers Morgan every night. These guys that make millions of bucks by stirring up the pot and causing problems where there shouldn't be problems. And a lot of these people probably also voted for our president, the organizer-in-chief.
And when the trial started, what was the first day like? There were the opening statements. Don West told a joke. What did you think of that?
The joke was horrible. Nobody got it. Knock, knock. I didn't get it till later, and then I thought about it.
And you'll notice Anderson Cooper, no studio audience. Although it would be kind of tough to do a studio audience because they have the blackout lights. The lights are blacked out over the jurors, so nobody can see who she is. So in that case, you don't. But even if she came out publicly, I don't really think that. I don't think that there would have been a studio audience because Anderson Cooper. I mean, say what you will about the guy, he takes his job seriously, as opposed to Piers Morgan, who's just a tabloid bottom feeder, basically.
I guess that could have been funny, but not in the context he told it.
Going into the trial, did you have an idea in your mind about what happened?
No, because I hadn't followed the trial at all.
And another thing I want to point out is yesterday we talked about this a little bit. Don West actually explained why he used that joke. He used that joke to disconnect the jury from the opening argument that was presented right before it. The opening argument was a lot of yelling and, I guess, very serious and very emotional. And he had to do something to disconnect the jury from that. And his idea was to tell a bad joke and purposely bomb on the joke to disconnect the jury.
I mean, I'd heard bits and pieces of what had happened and the names that were involved, but not any details.
So take me back, if you can, to that first day, the opening statements. What do you remember about them? What stood out to you?
Not a whole lot, because it seems like it's been years ago that it happened. It does. It seems like it's been a very long time that we were there.
Was there a particular witness that stands out to you? Who did you find to be the most credible?
the doctor and stop, and I don't know his name.
The doctor for the defense called?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
What about him?
I thought he was awe-inspiring, the experiences he had had over in the war.
And the doctor that the defense called, I forget his name as well, but he was the one that testified to the gunshot entry angles and all that kind of stuff. George Zimmerman's injuries being the result of having his head bashed against the concrete and his broken nose being the result of being punched in the face. So, he was a very credible witness, and obviously that made a big difference.
And I just never thought of anybody that could recognize somebody's voice yelling in like a terrible terror voice when he was just previously a half hour ago playing cards with them.
This was the witness that the friend of George Zimmerman's who had military experience.
No, this was the defense.
This was the defense medical examiner.
Yeah.
Okay. What was it like day by day just being on that jury?
Day by day was interesting. There were more interesting things than others. When they got into the evidence, it was a lot more interesting than just testimony. Some of the witnesses were good.
And I find it kind of telling that she says that the evidence, the physical evidence, was interesting. And that kind of shows that she took her job as a juror seriously. And there was a lot of evidence. I mean, it's a big case. There was a lot of evidence to weigh. I mean, that kind of speaks, and you can't really extrapolate that to the full jury. But it seems like at least she was concerned about doing the right thing, weighing the evidence. And when you weighed the evidence, there was only one logical verdict.
Them not so good.
Did you feel a lot of the analysts who were watching the trial felt that the defense attorneys, Mark O'Mara, Don West, were able to turn prosecution witnesses to their advantage? Chris Serino, for instance, the lead investigator.
Well, it helps when you have the facts on your side. You don't really need to turn witnesses if you have the facts on your side. I mean, the witnesses can't go up there and commit perjury, although, we'll leave that open, to your interpretation. But for the most part, the prosecution witnesses didn't commit perjury, so they had to tell the truth.
Did he make an impression on you?
Chris Serino did. To me, he just was doing his job. He was doing his job the way he was doing his job, and he was going to tell the truth regardless of who asked him the questions.
So you found him to be credible?
I did.
And we're going to pause it there. She's basically saying the same thing I just said. We're going to take a break. We'll come back and we'll wrap up the show with more from Juror B37, her interview on Anderson Cooper last night. Again, I can't give Anderson Cooper enough credit in this. He's been very fair. So, and CNN gets bashed a lot around here. But I think it's at least Anderson Cooper did a good job. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. We'll be right back.
For the latest on the show, follow Don on Facebook. Just search for Don Carpenter Radio. News Talk 1270, KIML.
News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. 9:50 here at the studios. And during the break, I actually decided I'd figure I'd go out and, since we were playing the audio from Juror B37, I figured I'd go out and actually check out some of the responses. Apparently because she's now the number one trend on Twitter. And it's just amazing. It's just amazing to see some of the attacks on this woman. And now we know why she's not using her real name, by the way. Here's one accusing her of killing Trayvon Martin. Here's one says she was, a bunch of them saying that she's racist. Here's somebody that talks about, I guess somebody wrote a story on a blog somewhere, the story of the Twitter hero who single-handedly killed the Zimmerman juror B37's book deal. Let's see. See, this is one of the bad sides about this social media stuff is, I mean, this woman served on a jury. She did her job And we've heard, I mean, she took her job seriously. She weighed the evidence. They found Zimmerman not guilty. And now they're going to destroy her life. And here's one that says Zimmerman molested his cousin, resisted arrest, and posted racist rants on the internet. Never saw any of that. Let's see. Think Progress has 7 mind-blowing moments. I'm sure they're completely dishonest. Somebody saying that she shouldn't write a book. She should read books. And, geez. It's more of the same. Anytime somebody doesn't get what they want, they cry racism. And that's what's considered justice these days. We have a couple minutes. Let's listen to a little bit more of this terrible racist woman's decision to acquit George Zimmerman.
Testified that he found George Zimmerman to be more or less and overall truthful. Did that make an impression on you?
It did. It made a big impression on me.
Why?
Because he deals with...
And this is actually something, it's kind of a tangent. But the police actually gave Zimmerman a polygraph test, lie detector. He passed with flying colors. Of course, that's not court admissible, so obviously they couldn't bring that up in court. But we can talk about that now. I mean, we're sure, free to talk about that as much as we want. But this woman's the racist. I'm telling you, the people out in the people that go around making a living, stirring up the pot, are going to destroy this woman's life. They will find out who she is. I wouldn't be surprised if they find out who she is by the end of the week. They'll find out who she is. They'll have her credit records online. They'll have her social security number, her home address. All of that will be posted on the internet. They will destroy this woman's life for simply doing the right thing.
With this all the time. He deals with, murder, robberies. He's in it all the time. And I think he has a knack to pick out who's lying and who's not lying.
The prosecution started off by saying that George Zimmerman was on top in the struggle. And then later on, they seemed to concede, well, perhaps Trayvon Martin was on top, but maybe was pulling away.
And we're gonna have to stop it there because we're almost out of time. Even the prosecution admitted that Trayvon Martin was on the top, beating the stuffing out of George Zimmerman. So, I mean, again, like I said, keep an eye on this Juror B37. She will be big news over the next week or so. And with that, we're out of time. 4 hours just blew by today. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay tuned for Rush, News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Have a wonderful day.
No crazy conspiracies.
Just good local talk. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.